8:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here is the news edited by Danushka Madhwala and read by Indrani Senanayake. The headlines. Steps taken to implement the development process of the country through the partnership of the public and private sectors in future. Parliamentarian Anura Priyadarshanayappe says that the freedom of broadcasting in mass media sectors should be developed. Another stock of 1,000 metric tons of rice donated by China has reached Sri Lanka. 80% attendance mandatory to sit the A-level exam from 2023. Blank paper becomes the symbol of rare demonstrations in China. And India batsman hits 7 sixers in 1 over. Minister of Urban Development and Housing, Honourable Prasanna Ranatunga, stated that steps have been taken to implement the development process of the country through the partnership of public and private sectors in future, given that a large number of persons who have lost their jobs due to the ceasing of work in the construction sector. The minister stated the aforesaid when members of Parliament inquired regarding the matter at the Ministerial Consultative Committee on Urban Development and Housing held under his chairmanship recently. The minister further mentioned that since there are private investors in the country who are willing to spend on development programs, development activities can be done through the partnership of the public and private sectors without using money from the Treasury. Furthermore, the plans related to the development of the city were discussed at length at the committee meeting held, and the officials pointed out that although no money has been allocated for the development activities, most of the plans related to the development have already been completed, and all those plans can be completed in 2023. The minister also instructed the officials to present the relevant plans to the district and regional development committees and complete them, taking their needs into consideration. Parliamentarian Anura Priyadarshanayappe says that the freedom of broadcasting in mass media sector should be developed. The minister said this is related to almost all media institutions. State media institutions were earning profits during the past government, but now those institutions are not earning sufficient funds for at least to cover their costs. Another stock of 1,000 metric tons of rice donated by China has reached Sri Lanka. The Chinese embassy in Sri Lanka said the shipment arrived at the CICT Colombo port yesterday, while the unloading process was completed today. The embassy noted that since June 2022, a total of 8,000 metric tons of rice have been donated to Sri Lanka. The rice will be handed over to the Ministry of Education. 60% of the new batch of rice, 600 metric tons, or 60,000 packs, will be distributed to underprivileged students in the northern province. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. We continue with local news. The Ministry of Education informs that only students with an 80% attendance rate will be allowed to sit the advanced level examination. The regulation has been brought into place via a letter by the Secretary of the Education Ministry. The regulation will come into place from the year 2023. General Secretary of the Sri Lanka Podujana Perumana, Sagara Karyavasam, says his party is capable of contesting any election alone. He said assistance of the former Minister Basil Rajapaksa is essential for the future activities of the party. During a media briefing today, he said Mr. Rajapaksa is holding discussions with all groups about the future activities of the party. The All-Ireland Egg Traders Association says there is an egg-selling mafia in the country. General Secretary of the association, Arunasiri Marasinghe, said they can sell an egg for 30 rupees soon if the government gives its support. He said various associations had spread falsehood about the production cost of eggs. That ends the local segment of news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
On to the main news story. A preliminary discussion was held in Parliament pertaining to the future plan of getting support of the university academic staff through vice-chancellors for the purpose of formulating national policies. This was decided at the National Council Subcommittee on Identifying Short and Medium-Term Programs related to national policy held recently. The meeting was held in the presence of Professor Sampath Amaratunga, Chairman of the University Grants Commission, and a group of lecturers including Vice-Chancellors of universities across the country. Were able to thus arrive at a preliminary agreement regarding the basic structure identified by the subcommittee on identifying short and medium-term programs related to national policy.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Watch Life is brought to you by
Tertiary and Vocational Education Commission.
The updated 2021 National Red List on the conservation status of Sri Lankan birds was released recently at the Ministry of Environment under the chairmanship of Nasir Ahmed, the Minister of Environment, and Dr. Anil Jayasinghe, Secretary of the Ministry of Environment. Minister Ahmed, participating in the event, said that protecting the ecosystem is a responsibility of all Sri Lankans. The Red List can be used to plan conservation actions as well as an indicator to monitor the effectiveness of natural resource management, he said. The minister further said that the government will provide full support to protect the environment as well as birds and forest resources.
Are you employed, self-employed or in business? Achieve career goals by gaining an NVQ certificate for full vocational qualifications with experience in a field through recognition of prior learning, RPL, or NVQ competency unit certificate through the flexible learning mode for a vocational competency unit. For further details, inquire the skills development officers, career guidance officers in your nearest divisional secretariat offices or the registered and accredited training providers in public or private sector. Visit www.tvec.gov.lk for further information. This is
World News, brought to you by courtesy of
We give you the strength to rise higher and higher.
Never step back, but always march forward.
Empowering you to reach greater heights. People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
World News headlines. Blank paper becomes a symbol of rare demonstrations in China. Gunmen storm hospital in attempt to kill teen in Ecuador. Monkeypox given new name by global health experts. The authorities in China are seeking to end protests against COVID restrictions that spread to some of its biggest cities over the weekend. Police are out in force, and it's unclear whether further protests will take place. On this evening, several people were detained in Shanghai earlier at a site that saw protests on 2 consecutive nights, and police erected barriers. Large crowds took to the streets in Beijing, Shanghai and elsewhere at the weekend to protest against China's zero-COVID policy, which features mass testing and snap lockdowns. The demonstrations are an unprecedented challenge to President Xi Jinping, with some calling on him to resign. Police in Ecuador have arrested 7 gunmen who stormed a hospital in an attempt to kill a teen being treated there. Gang members took nurses hostage and exchanged fire with police before they were detained. All hostages were freed and no one was injured, officials said. The 17-year-old target of the attack, known as Dirty Face, is thought to be a rival gang member who is in intensive care recovering from bullet wounds. The gunman held 5 staff members hostage for more than an hour, one employee told local newspaper El Diario. Monkeypox will now be known as Mpox. The World Health Organization has announced after complaints over racist and stigmatizing language linked to the virus name. The old term will be used alongside the new one for a year before being phased out. Mpox was decided on after lengthy discussions between experts, countries and the general public. It can easily be used in English as well as other languages, the WHO said. Human monkeypox was first identified in 1970 and named after the disease caused by the virus was discovered in captive monkeys more than a decade before. Since then, the WHO has introduced advice on naming diseases. To end this bulletin of world news, we take a look at the headlines again. Blank paper becomes a symbol of rare demonstrations in China. Gunmen storm hospital in attempt to kill teen in Ecuador. Monkeypox given new name by global health experts.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
Amidst all challenges, we will rally around you and advance.
In the face of hardships, let's stand strong together.
Empowering you to reach greater heights. People's Listening, the trusted leader.
We now take a look at development news. A group of top-level Japanese entrepreneurs have called on Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena at the Prime Minister's office in Parliament to discuss possible new investments in Sri Lanka. The delegation included Ms. Sagio Ayumi, a member of the Royal Family of Japan and former member of Tokyo Metropolitan Council, and Mr. Kami Sakamoto Yuji and Ms. Kami Sakamoto Hisako, who belonged to the entrepreneur family that constructed a memorial for former President J.R. Jayawardena in Japan to show gratitude to him for the support given to Japan at the famous San Francisco Conference after World War II. Now we take a look at sports news. Cameroon kept their hopes of reaching the World Cup last 16 alive as they battled back from 2 goals down to draw a 6-goal thriller with Serbia in Group G. Cameroon took the lead through Jean-Charles Castelletto, but Strahinja Pavlovic and Sergei Milanovic-Savic replied to give Serbia a half-time advantage. Alexander Mitrovic added a third for Serbia, and they looked to be cruising to a win that would have put them in a strong position to progress from the group. That was sports news. Also, we take a look at cricket. Ruturaj Gaikwad has become the first cricketer to hit 7 sixers in 1 over in a limited overs match. The India batter, 25, broke the record in a Vijay Hazare Trophy quarter-final playing for Maharashtra against Uttar Pradesh in Ahmedabad on Monday. Left-arm spinner Shiva Singh was the bowler hit for 7 sixers, the 5th of which came off a no-ball, earning Gaikwad an extra delivery. The 43 runs conceded also equal the record for most runs off an over.
The fastest way to earn the highest interest, an interest rate of 22% in 4 months. NSB, the safest place for your money.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
On to business news. UK households could save around £310 a year through an expanded scheme to insulate Britain's draftiest homes, the government has said. It will spend £1 billion from next spring on grants for homes that have low energy efficiency ratings and are in lower council tax bands. Households will need to contact their energy supplier or council to see if they are participating, it said. But critics questioned why the funding would only be available over winter. That was business news.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The fastest way to earn the highest interest, an interest rate of 22% in 4 months. NSB, the safest place for your money.
Economic news, courtesy of...
I bought my daughter a laptop for her work by managing my finances. Whatever the expenses may be, I can't afford to miss out on life's special moments like her birthday or our anniversary. So you need to invest to make your family's future flourish.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibilities. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
A leading pharmaceutical company in Pakistan has come forward to provide lifelong medicines to thalassemia patients in Sri Lanka. Pakistan pharmaceutical company High Noon Laboratories recently completed the first phase of donating thalassemia drugs to thalassemia patients in Sri Lanka. The stock of medicine was officially handed over to the Minister of Health, Kehelia Rambukwella, at the Ministry of Health recently. The Minister of Health further stated that this medicine donation was done through the High Commission of Pakistan in Sri Lanka, and it has planned to provide free medicines for thalassemia patients to Sri Lanka every 6 months. Asma Kamal, the Trade and Investment Officer of the Pakistan High Commission in Sri Lanka and the Executive Director of the Pakistan Pharmaceutical Company, have joined the occasion. And finally, we take a look at the weather report.
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
The Met Department says that showers or thunder showers will occur at several places in the Uva and Sabaragama provinces, and in the Gaul, Matara and Nuwalea districts. Showers or thunder showers may occur at a few places in the Western Province and in the Kandy district during the afternoon or at night. Mainly fair weather will prevail elsewhere over the country. Misty conditions can be expected in the Sabaragama, Central and Uva provinces and in the Gaul and Matara districts during the morning hours. To end tonight's news broadcast, we take a look at the headlines again. Steps taken to implement the development process of the country through the partnership of public and private sectors in future. Parliamentarian Anura Priyadarshana says that the freedom of broadcasting in mass media sector should be developed. Another stock of 1,000 metric tons of rice donated by China has reached Sri Lanka. 80% attendance mandatory to sit the advanced level examination from 2023. And in world news, blank paper becomes a symbol of rare demonstrations in China. And in sports news, Indian batsman hits 7 sixers in 1 over. That ends this night's news broadcast.